So, Cody Ashworth, you were raised in rural Tennessee, and at a very young age, you decided to pursue art. And since then, you've grown into an adult. You pursued it further, and you studied all kinds of visual arts, music, and CGI, and now you work in the industry. I'm super excited to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Jason.
Of course. Super happy to have you. So, if you can tell me a little bit about the visual arts and animation, what you do and how you do it.
So, how I do it is good training, trial and error, like everything else I've ever done with art. I started very early, 3, and then I've gotten to everything from sculpting to illustration and painting, and then grew up and just saw Toy Story. My grandmother took me to see Toy Story, and I fell in love with. I was like, "This is magic!
Yeah,
I want to do it." And then proceeded to make a plan to do that later in life. My parents made me go to a university first, though. That really pissed me off. I've wasted a year, like everybody they're like, oh, maybe I should take a year off from high school. That's basically what I did, but on my family's dime.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then I got kicked out of university, so that was good.
I mean, life is a bunch of paths, and you got to where you are for a reason. And, not all paths are a straight line, but you're here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I think it's, I always say, I'm really happy with who I am today. But if I take away something that I did dumb or that happened, then maybe I wouldn't be exactly who I am today.
Exactly.
So I'm happy. If I had to flunk out of a year of school, then that, that's a good origin story somewhere.
Yeah. So nowadays, what kind of animation do you do? What kind of CGI? What kind of work?
So primarily, I sell myself as an animation and rigger, and now technical artist, which means I focus on pipeline development and tool building. With animation, primarily I'm rigging characters, primarily rigging characters and the aspects of that are anything that the character has on them, garments, their facial expressions, the way that they move their limbs, whether we need to tie in a muscle system to that. Depends on how far the client wants to go, but primarily developing character development and the pipeline for animation and rigging.
Okay, gotcha. So from my limited knowledge of animation, characters, the model, they have bones inside of them, so things connect to other things, and then they move because they're connected in a certain way.
Yep.
They're made of polygons, which are a bunch of little triangles that make up the detail of the characters, and the more triangles you have, the more resolution and the more detail that you can have. So it sounds like you are provided a character, you build out these things, you put the bones in, you rig them up, and you just continue to develop this until you get the final thing that you want.
Yeah, and I didn't always get to do that because it's such a niche. Each little job in the industry and the pipeline's a niche field, and people really hire people that are like, oh, we need a really good fit for this specific role.
Okay.
My entire beginning of my career, I was doing everything from the modeling with polygons to sculpting characters, doing finalized touches and details.
Yeah.
And the rigging and animation on top of that. And my goal was, if you have a really robust job like that, that's wonderful. People love nowadays generalists because we're like, we need somebody that's really good at a lot of things because we want long hires. We don't want to dish out contract work to a bunch of different people, and the studio becomes big and it's harder to manage projects and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, I need to specialize. But then I realized that no, like you want to be really proficient at all of the things that you can get your hands on, because a lot of them go together. You need somebody that understands CG modeling to be able to rig a character because of the edge loops necessary for proper deformation when you're going in and sculpting the shapes for the rig. You have to really know your stuff. So it's good to have a background in a lot of stuff in generalism, but that in school they told you not to do that. Dude, they're like, if you don't just focus on animation, you're not going to get a job. And then they probably meant, right out of school, which I didn't get a job right out of school. So, It was good advice.
I mean, there's a balance to everything, right? Like hyper specialization is really good when you can get a job in that, but outside of that, generalization is good. So you have the breadth of knowledge, you know, the foundational skills, how everything relates to each other, and maybe you can grab a job that's hiring for this, not for the thing that you didn't specialize in, but you're decently competent in, and then you can grab that and then continue to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. And nowadays it's with all the new tools and AI coming out, it's way easier for one person that maybe didn't have that information or is still missing that component to the bridge to build the gap to so they can go from being like an animator or a modeler to a rigger or vice versa. You know, you can have like pretty basic models generated out of AI now. So you're like, oh, I don't have to spend time doing this, but you still need to understand the concept if you get into it of like how that model needs to be developed if you're going to take it to another part of that job, like into rigging or animation.
So let's take an example. Let's say on a piece of paper, I have a drawing of a humanoid character that I want to build in 3D. So they have, I don't know, a head, a torso, 2 arms, 2 legs.
Yeah.
I have a blank canvas in front of me. How do I go about building this character?
So, I think it's good. I've met people that freeform 3D modeling and just skip that altogether, which is wild. I mean, they're so good. Like one of the guys that used to do the characters for Blizzard. I mean, that guy can seriously just like model.
It's wild.
Out of edge extrusion, just like model a freaking perfect character, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of patience. But if I was to have a piece of paper, I would say, okay, so let's do a concept. You can do it like the 3/4 turnaround where you've got like a front, back, and a side view.
Okay.
And what we were taught on how to do character development as far as like traditional 3D modeling goes, nowadays people can use sculpting software like ZBrush to whip out a concept really fast. So I'll go over both ways if that's what you want.
Yeah, please.
Back in the day, and people still do it this way, in the 3D modeling traditionally, you can take those pieces of paper, take a photo of them, upload them onto an image plane in your 3D software. So you've got it scaled out. You can set your scale of the character, everything. Just make sure the polygon that you're projecting the image on or putting the texture on is the same height and resolution as the photo you take.
Got it.
So once you get that in there, you can put it kind of in like a box. So you've got like front, side and back views, and then you can just set your isographic view panels up where you can just see left, right, back, and then you can start off with a polygon plane, and then just start making your extrusions and building the shape of your character.
Okay.
And that'll get you at least to a point where you can get the basic shape of the character down, and then you can start refining after that. Okay. And then the other way is you can do the same thing in ZBrush or Mudbox. And you can start off with like an orb of clay, and you can just start dragging and subdividing, and then get the character into a workable state pretty quickly, sculpting. Then you have to go through a stage of retopologizing. So sometimes it's better. So you could sculpt that. Say you could sculpt the character in, I can get the basic shape of this character down in 20 minutes compared to modeling would take you 40 minutes.
Sure.
Polygons, edge extrusion would take like 40 minutes. But then you're going to add another 20 minutes to potentially retopologize it into a workable way, or even more time than that. So I'd say from a traditional sense, just 3D modeling with view planes and basic edge extrusion it's quicker. Because you can control your topology a lot better like that.
So if you could define edge extrusion for the people listening.
Yes. So edge extrusion is where, so starting off, I work in quads. We can decimate 2 triangles, like you had mentioned polygons and triangles earlier, because when they're brought over to the game engine, you can always decimate like that. So we start off with quads. So by a polygon plane, it's just a flat square.
Okay.
And you can drag all 4 points of the square, or you can grab an edge of it and drag it and stretch it. Mm-hmm. The edge extrusion is where we highlight an edge of that polygon and we extrude another polygon out of it.
Okay. Got it.
So you're basically duplicating, but it's keeping it welded together.
Okay, I see. So you have a square,
Correct.
you connect another square to the edge, you continue to wrap, you connect another
Yep.
square, and you continue to shape.
Yep, and there's like a million ways to skin a cat on this, but like you could just duplicate the square and
Okay.
then weld the vertices together to make it one
Sure.
piece. Whatever you want to do when it comes to that.
Okay, so you have the two methods that you mentioned, and the end result is you have, in our example, some humanoid figure,
Yep.
head, torso, two arms, and two legs. What next?
So if it's in a workable state, and especially depending on if you don't have any characters already developed in a pipeline, so we're starting from scratch here. You take this character, and you're your own department head. You're your own creative director on this. So what I would do is I would build a workable rig out of this, and I have scripts that I've been developing that do this auto rigging. But basically, what we want functional bones and controls for each of these points of movement in the body.
Okay.
So I would map out. You draw the bones in the body. And you have your basic character. Let's say this is just the start of the character, right? But let's say that you needed this character because you want to put it in a scene, right?
Okay.
You want
Yeah.
it to be moving. So maybe you could. What would you want this character to do?
I don't know, just walking down the street.
Just walk it. So we need the figure to have enough bones and functionality to be able to do a basic walk test. So the animation can already be started, and we can still work on refining the character while we have this animated rig. So we're going to draw the bones of the body. We're going to put controls around the bones that are basically highlighted. Like if you needed to make a switch on a control panel or something like that, it's basically all it is. So you grab the control, you rotate, you translate whatever you need it to do, and then you have a basic proxy rig ready for animation. So the animation can go after that. But so if you would like, I can break down the rigging process. So what we need to do before that we can even. So after we draw all the bones in the body, we want to make sure that they're all lined up where our natural rotations are. So this is a humanoid character. So we want to make sure that the shoulders and everything have enough bones to support movement in the way that we do. We want all of our fingers to have everything they need. We're going to need, IK and FK kinematics. IK is inverse kinetics. So that allows our character to keep its foot planted, and you can move the center of gravity of the character, and the feet stay zero.
Yeah.
And then FK is going to be like your free range of movement, where nothing, like everything follows the body, nothing stays static.
Got it. Okay.
And so after we have the bones, where we go ahead and make the controls, and the controls control the bones. And then after that, I'll skin the character, which means we take the geometry, the polygons, and we bind them and make a marriage with the joints.
Okay.
And that's when you kind of get into like this really cool, this is a painterly thing that happens. So you basically have an influence map on the mesh, on the polygons that show where on that body, on the polygons, the bone influences.
Okay.
So when you move that bone, that's the area that's going to move on the polygons. So you make sure to weight. You have a weight. So let's say 0 and 1, 0 to 100%. The shoulder bone has 100% influence of this region of your shoulder. So that makes sure that whenever you rotate it up, it deforms the way it needs to.
So you're just isolating certain things and seeing how much it affects the surrounding area.
Right. And for a basic walk cycle or something like that in a scene, you don't need a whole lot. But once you get into like very detailed CGI characters, not only do you have bones for its primary body functions, but you have bones that automatically move and shift based on where that moves to do correctives for like muscle, to simulate muscle, but not really have to build it into the character. And also like other places where there is no influences, like if you just influenced a shoulder with the shoulder bone and then raise it up, the shoulder won't like automatically make your trapezius muscle look like it needs to. It'll like crush it into the head and the neck. So you have to really start to refine your rig on more detailed models to simulate that movement properly.
Okay.
But yes, so the weight painting. So during the weight painting, you're painting all of the polygons to the influence that you want that region to move on the character.
Yeah.
And once that's done, you can then freely move the character with the controls.
Okay. So I imagine this is how, we're building this up from scratch, but nowadays you probably have templates and pre-existing models and resources and libraries that you can just grab. 90% of the work's done for you already, and then you're just doing final touches to customize it to what you want. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes. So if you're working a big studio, they have, or you can start with a base character and then just grab, if for me, if I was making something like this, I would have a base humanoid character and I'd have it built in different scales or sizes compared to like, I could start with a small woman or a fat guy or something like that. And then you already have like just a little bit beefier polygon modeling of that character. And then if you want it to look stylized or whatever, that's when you just go in and start tweaking it. And then the bigger studios you go to, they've been in business for 20 years and they've got development tools that their artists have developed for the studio that help you get to that way faster.
Okay.
Which is always really neat. I love that.
I mean, it's efficient. It saves a lot of time, and it's also assuming in-house tools for that company. They're custom built for their needs and, their pipelines and how all of this thing gets built out. So
I like it. Once I started doing tool development, I was like, oh, I know what these guys are doing. Like there's comes a point when there's slow time in the studio, because once you're on a project, back in the day, I've heard stories, when projects are going, they're on it. You don't have time for development. There is no R&D department, So I can imagine these guys in a slow time in the studio and they're like, I'm going to get shit canned, I'm going to get fired or something like that. And they're like, I've got an idea to do this tool. We need this for the studio. We lost our ass on so much time during doing XYZ on this last project. And I'm probably like, yep, let's do it. Let's do it. That just, you just convince somebody to keep paying your salary. And I'm like, oh, I love that, you know? So, I mean, I even, I got to experiment with this in my last job. So I love this. I worked on the remake for Riven, and I was in charge of rigging all of the characters on that game, and a lot of other animation tasks that I had. But one of the things that it allowed me to do, as far as where I'm trying to progress in my career, is look at the pipeline, help design it for the next future project, help time manage, not be so under the gun, thinking about the future, thinking about the studio in the future. And so when I'm working with my animation lead, Autumn, hi, I could see where she needed help. What if, the next title or something, in any studio, what if it's not funded enough? You can't bring people back. What will help you save time if you're the only person doing this? So I ended up pitching a tool development, and it was great. I signed on. It went great. I got to finish the tool, and take a crack at doing that, and building something that I've never built before for a pipeline. And it was really rewarding. It really taught me a lot, what to look for on the next one, and like how to really take your time with your code, and like where do you need to make it just a regular Python file, just like add on, or do you want to make it more modular and have it as like a plugin, that you actually have to activate within your software, and learning, about terms that I still can't talk about, intelligently. Like we have the API is of a software. Would you probably know what that is for your?
I have a computer engineering background. Yeah,
there you go. Well, you could make a definition on that if you want. But what I know it is, it's like you're communicating with basically like the source code of a application. Yeah. So if you're making adjustments to how it works, or a new tool set, even where you start having to use C++ to compile plugins like that. Yep. You're changing parts of the software. It's not like Maya's not like Blender. The software that I use, mainly Maya, it's not like Blender where it's open source, right? So you have your limitations to what you can do to the software.
Okay. But as a general statement, it sounds like you're taking your career and you're trying to think about it as a bigger picture view, and you're trying to have more impact on it. You're trying to have your efforts go a little bit further. So you're focusing on efficiency and tools that makes the team as a whole perform a little bit better, as opposed to just doing the work that the team does. You're trying to improve the efficiency of the team itself.
Yeah, yeah, and I really I like that. But what I like even more is it pays a lot more money.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Well, I was thinking too. It's like, well, just looking at the landscape of where this career is going, and the industry that I work in is so volatile.
Yeah,
and especially right now, like Hollywood's like having a hard time.
Nuts.
And I've been off contract for a bit, and it was that is the time of the year when things get a little slow anyway. Yep. But once that new year, what is it?
Fiscal year?
Once that fiscal year ends and the funds are unlocked for studios, they're like, all right, like even in the past 3 weeks, I've had 2 job opportunities. And this new one, I just finished my second round of interviews for, and another one I got hit up about yesterday.
Fantastic.
I was like, oh man, when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
Which is great. I'm really looking forward to that.
Okay.
But yeah, so back to the job title. Like I'm looking at the landscape, especially with like AI and stuff and where it's going. You're still going to need true artists, but you do need these generalist guys that love every aspect of it. When I fell in love with Toy Story, I didn't fall in love with it just because it looked cool. I was like, this is
the technology.
It's all of it. It's like even down to like, I know guys that only 3D model or they specialize in shading. So shading is material building. So you basically are a texture artist, or you're able to take the science behind what a something like leather looks like, and then replicate that in CGI and make it look exactly like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
You still need and you don't need a 3D model for that. You can build shaders without 3D modeling, really. So that's really cool. But I find even those guys from all different sects, whether it's animation, modelers, surfacing artists, visual effects guys, a lot of these guys are so multifaceted, and the ones that I know are like really good, and they're getting more into the technical art side of things.
Yeah.
Because you get so much more bang for your buck.
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
That you really get to test yourself all the time.
Okay.
So that's great.
The thing that I find wild about, the arts aspects of these giant projects, it is so fucking demanding and competitive. So I come from the gaming industry. Granted, I never worked on actual game development, but I did work at Xbox, and I got to brush shoulders with a bunch of these people. But like just how competitive it is to get a job there, because everyone and their mother wants a job there. Yep. And there's prestige, there's pride, and there's all the other stuff. It's wildly competitive.
That goes away.
Yes, it does. But once you get in there, then you have to execute at such a high level. You have to be incredibly competent, both in being a good team player and also just your technical execution. Yep. It's so crazy.
Oh yeah, you do. And people for people listening to this that think that they want to get into being an artist career wise, I can't imagine doing anything else personally. I just can't. It's just I've made my bed as far as it goes. Yeah, and it goes back to what you were saying too. It's like it is the prestige behind it. I was saying wears off, but you're looking at a bunch of people that do this. It's like second nature.
Yeah,
they don't know. Like it's such a privilege to be an artist. But honestly, it's like if you do become an artist, that decision was made for you a long time ago.
Yes.
I don't even feel like I tell this story. I was like, I don't feel like I chose to do it. I just remember being 3 and always drawing. Like always. Yeah. That's all I did.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about those early days?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, okay. There's a lot, but art wise, I had a really cool upbringing, like really cool. My parents had me when they were really young, and so I don't remember, any of their problems. I come from parents of divorce and stuff like that, but I don't remember them having a lot of no issues or nothing like that, because my grandparents like moved them. They're like, oh, 17, like we're going to get this trailer and we're going to put it on our property.
Okay.
And that way Cody's like always near us, and y'all need help. And my grandparents were, my grandfather had a wonderful career. He was handed down a business, him and his brother. They did really well for themselves. I spent so much time with my grandparents, and they invested in me and my arts. And it paid off so well, but the upbringing was so awesome because I got to experience like being on a farm and also horseback riding all the time and traveling with my grandparents.
Yeah.
And oh man, I miss it so much. I mean, I have recurrent dreams all the time. For any of you like dream fanatics out there, I have super clear dreams all the time. And it's sometimes it feels like you don't get much sleep because you really get invested like in the dreams. I dream of that place all the time. I dream of the land, even like just without the house there, the land is still shaped the same. And but yeah, totally recurring. I love that place. And I haven't been back in a long time. I had some falling out. I guess you'd call it falling out. Yeah, I still talk to family. They're like, "Oh, I didn't know anything was wrong," and I was like, "Well, you don't really call, and you're the parent, you know? Or like seeing, I don't know, family stuff is crazy. Like, a lot changes, and but it's good to have the memories of being there as a kid.
There's something nostalgic about that. Yeah.
Oh, it's great. It's awesome. It's really awesome. The fact I guess maybe someday my little brother was just gifted 20 acres of land. And he's wanting to build a house on it.
Nice.
And, I don't know, but I assume that's probably in like somewhere in the future, like, if you ever want to come home or live in Tennessee, you have land that you could do something with. So, but I don't know. I told my grandparents they paid for my film school. I talked about being a college dropout.
Sure.
I ended up getting accepted into a school, and my grandparents paid for it.
Good for you.
And I told them I was extraordinarily thankful. I was so unhappy at university is why I flunked out. I had no drive to do anything but just waste my time there.
Yep.
And when I got to go to film school, that was tough because I still had a wild party side to me.
Sure.
And it was really demanding. It's like you're supposed to, it's like 2.5 years in 1 year.
That's hard. That's really hard.
And you're not allowed to have a job. And I was living, they sent me to Canada. So I was in Vancouver, closer to here than ever back home.
Yeah.
And they paid for it. And I said, I know that my family's part of they like to talk about money and like, oh, what am I going to inherit and like all this stuff. And I told him, I was just like, I know this is a lot of stuff, and I know that like weighs on you. Like your kids are talking about that shit in front of you, like you're already dead or something. Yeah. It's just disrespectful. I said, don't leave me anything. I was like, y'all have done enough for me. But yeah, it was very. They believed in me. Okay. And they were like, if you can do this, then yeah.
So an incredibly supportive family environment for you to pursue your art, your passion, your craft, which brought you here today.
Very lucky.
Really, really cool.
Very lucky.
Do you remember any foundational elements from back then that kind of influence your style now? The things that you like and enjoy?
It's changed so much.
I mean, of course. Yeah.
The older I get, the more I'm into skulls, like I don't know, but I'll tell. Okay. Styles. There was a game that came out on PlayStation 2, and I always liked like really edgy stuff, even as a kid. But I remember when I freaked my grandmother out because I was raised Southern Baptist. And I don't really remember like how much that really played a role in like the house, my grandparents' house. Like, it's not like they were preaching to Jesus. There's always a really nice old Bible open upstairs that my grandmother would read. Okay. Or we'd go to service and stuff like that. Yeah. But I remember, well, that was funny. So I'll get back to that. There's a game on PlayStation 2 that came out called Devil May Cry.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
I love video games growing up. I've played video games since I was a kid. I love it. I love playing. Yep. I never thought that I would be working in the industry, but I am super happy to be. Yeah. In some way. So she caught me drawing demons. And I just remember I was just like, man, this game is so cool. Everyone looks so cool. I was just like, man, it'd be cool to look like Dante. You know, he's got that big red trench coat, and
silver
hair with a freaking cool sword and stuff. And my grandmother's like starts to get worried, you know, because she was kind of a Bible thumper.
Yeah.
And that was just like, I just think they look cool. She's just like, So even back then, I started, I don't know, just the darker stuff. I'm a huge horror fan.
Okay.
I think my style these days is I'm getting back into illustration because I've taken a lot of time off. And, you know, when you work a career job, you don't really, it's hard to allot other time, especially if you're like in a non-stationary kind of on the go mode, just for whatever's going on. But I think it's just progressed. I never really drew pretty stuff. I think the prettiest thing I probably ever drew was like a mallard duck. You know, like that was like my first big project in art class, my extracurricular art class my grandmother put me into. And we had to watercolor paint a mallard duck on a pond, and it had like she showed us how to do the ripples and everything,
texture and depth.
And I was probably like, this was, I guess I would have been 8 or 9.
Oh, you were young.
Yeah. It was, I remember I signed it in a really bad way, and it was like 2000. Cody Ashworth, 2000. But my grandparents still have it hung up on there.
Of course, proud grandparents.
It's been there forever. I can't imagine. There's no telling what there could be anything behind that. It's like brown recluse spiders, or they're horrible down there. By the way, I hear they're bad here, but they're pretty bad.
Yeah, it can be pretty nasty in the South. Growing up in Florida, where we had like bird-sized mosquitoes, giant spiders, it's wild.
Get you from Florida?
Yeah, I'm a Florida man.
We're from the same area, the same neck of the woods. I would never remember that. I don't know if you've had to have told me that at some point that you're from Florida.
I'm sure it's come up. Yeah.
Did you have to practice to get your accent to go away, or did you?
So it's so funny because like, when you think of Florida, it's technically in the south of the United States.
It's more south than, well, in a lot of, it is.
But culturally, the South is actually north of Florida.
Someone said this 2 days ago. They're like, people say that they're from the South when they live in Tennessee, but as far as I'm concerned, that's just east. And I was like, no, I mean, there's like a little group of states that's, like Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky specifically. When you get up into the little Appalachian area, people sound way worse than me. Way worse.
That southern drawl.
Yeah. I quit. But did you ever?
No, actually, I didn't have any of the accent. So I grew up in Orlando, which was a pretty, metropolitan, diverse area. Everyone and their mother travels there to either live, snowbirds coming from like New York or New Jersey or other places, or, they're just around because of the theme parks. So I wouldn't say that Orlando has like a defined accent to it.
Yeah.
That being said, if you go to like southern Florida, where things get a little bit more rural, gets a little more rednecky, gets a little more swampy, you're going to get that southern accent, that thick southernness again.
That's a good point you just made, because there's some folks I met in Oregon that sound like they from the backwoods too. It's so rural in Oregon, man. I'm so glad to be out of that state. Oh, I liked it, but okay. But the southern, I'm guessing that like you growing up in Orlando, then it wasn't. Did you go to a private school, or did you go to a public school?
Yeah, so I went to a public school. I went to a public elementary, middle, and high school, and then I went to the University of Central Florida. So not a state school, but one of the largest in the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice. I enjoyed it. It was a good time.
Cool. Did you find did anybody else have like accents in Orlando? Because we never went that far south. My family was just like, we're just out of Dothan, Alabama. Here's Destin in Pensacola or whatever. We're stopping here.
I mean, I guess people pretty much talk like how I'm talking now. I don't think I have an accent. I'm sure if you ask someone else, maybe I do, but it's just pretty like very mid. There's no flavor to it. There's no color.
I can hear mine over yours.
I can hear yours too.
I wonder if that was, during the interview I had yesterday, I got mocked at one point because I can't remember what I said, but when they said it back to me, they purposefully threw a southern drawl into it. Yeah. And I just started laughing. So I was just like, man, I love when people that don't speak southern just try and sound like it.
It means they like you, I hope.
Oh, my girlfriend Lexus, I think I'm rubbing off on her a little bit because I can hear it in her voice.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Like Like she'll be doing some mannerisms, you
Uh-huh.
know. Yeah, that's cool. It's kind of cool. I was just like, you sound like little Southern Belle, but you were not.
Yeah. Okay, so how did you end up here in Seattle? Because you originated in Tennessee.
So I was working at a studio called Animax Designs at the
Okay.
time, and the work that we were doing in house was so much fun,
Yep.
and it had a big role to play in me getting scouted for a position in Oregon.
Okay.
So there was some stuff going on at the studio at the time, and I was like, I'm about to potentially work on a feature film for the first time, and I just jumped on it.
You have to.
I negotiated, uh, but the studio ended up moving me and paying for my move
Good for you.
out to the out here,
Yeah.
to Oregon, not to where we are.
Yeah.
I don't know if you reveal your
Seattle,
location.
it's fine, yeah.
Yeah, we're in Seattle. Come find us. And I jumped on it. They paid me a sign-on bonus, and I there's no way I could say no. I was like, this is an opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah, of course. You got to take it.
I'm gonna work on a freaking movie
Yeah.
for like one of the biggest animation
Yeah.
companies in the world.
It's a cool feeling.
So I ended up in the Northwest because of that job opportunity,
Okay.
and it was a lot of fun.
I'm really glad that you took it. It's a very similar story to mine because, I went to the University of Central Florida. I was in Orlando. I'm in Seattle right now. But I took a job at Xbox and they flew me across the country. And at that time, like, I was agonizing over that decision because, all of my family is in Orlando. I had friends, my family, I grew up there, all of the environments and things that I knew. But I felt that if I didn't take the Xbox job and fly all the way to Seattle, I would forever regret that opportunity. I don't know if I would be able to forgive myself if I chose a different life path and then not liked it, and I would just always have that nagging feeling at the back of my head. So I figured I can always go back. So I took the job and I came out here. Sounds like a very similar story to you.
Yeah. Well, I of course I miss my friends, but
Sure.
as far as I'm concerned, I told myself a long time ago, as selfish as this sounds, I was like, nothing's going to stop me getting what I want in my career.
There you go.
I was like, I'm not, and I don't mean screwing people over, but if I have to say goodbye, I'm going to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Like this shouldn't be a shitty thing, but it sounds like it's going to, if I got a job opportunity in Australia and they were like, we want to fly you here, I'm going to Australia.
Sure. I mean,
but if I had a badass job already here, then I want to look at it. The studio that I was working at was going through changes too.
Sure.
And we had just finished a huge project. And when Leica reached out, that wasn't the first time they reached out. They reached out like 6 months prior. And I said, no, I'm happy where I am.
Okay.
Well, then I went through a bad relationship. And then they reached out again. And then I was like, see ya.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I was like,
thanks.
yeah, and I've always wanted to live out here. I remember my family took me to a trip over to San Diego, where my uncle's from.
Yeah.
And we went from San Diego, like Oceanside, San Diego, or San Diego, Oceanside, all the way up to LA, and just did a family trip.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is where I need to be.
It's beautiful.
I need to be here. You know, I want to be on the West Coast.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to be in California.
Yeah.
But I want to be up here. And the rain doesn't bother me. I like that.
Same.
I like it. I don't like being pale all year, but
yeah, it was an adjustment for me because middle of December, it's 85 degrees. You throw Christmas lights on the palm tree and you hang out by the pool.
That's great. And nothing beats Florida sand, dude. No, you go out on the beaches out here and you're just like, ow.
It's all rocks.
Ow.
Yeah, what I do remember is dead of summer, like I don't know, July 15th or whatever the middle of summer is, jump into Lake Washington and it's like 50 degrees and I'm freezing and everyone here's like, oh my God, the water's so warm. I'm like, the fuck are you guys talking about? I'm freezing my ass off. Yeah, I still haven't adjusted. It's been 6 years. I don't think I will.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the cold either, man. I love heat. Tennessee, Florida, like the humidity.
Yep.
I like sweating when I walk outside. I wear black. Like this is like the only. These are blue stripes, by the way, and I'm wearing blue pants. I wear black like every day. Like most of my wardrobe's black. I did it in Tennessee, and I'd just be sweating, but it felt great.
Yeah.
You know, like a lizard.
Oh, so you were that emo kid that wore black skinny jeans, the studded belt, the tight black shirt in the middle of like July.
I would have wore skinny jeans if my parents could have afforded them, you know, something
Fair
like
enough,
that. I think
yeah.
I got my first pair of skinny jeans whenever I was like maybe like 16 or something.
Yeah.
I love skateboarding. I love that style, you know, that style, the skinny jeans style is really cool. When you become an older man though, and your balls do whatever they want, like dude, skinny jeans it was called, this is so embarrassing. My girlfriend, Lexus, she's like, you need to get some new pants because everything's just like sitting in one place and it's like obvious. And I was like, shh. She's like, you can't be like going out in public selling that. I was like, God, I'm so sorry.
It's the gray sweatpants, but instead it's your jeans. Yeah.
Yeah. Or doing like the late night, like I've been doing a DJ gig, you know, and like she's like, and I tell her, you know, like I met her, you know, out somewhere, you know, but being in that like position, you know, you have to field, you know, wow, I like karate chop women sometimes because you're just like, I have a girlfriend, thank you.
Yeah, you're like, you stay right there, thank you. Arm's length.
I'll just. I did this the other day to her. I put on a pair of pants. I put on all white. And I was like, white jeans, white shirt. I was like, is this gay enough? And she's like,
perfect.
yeah. I was like, all right, cool. That was really funny.
Fantastic. So for the animation and, you know, visual arts industry, where do you mentioned AI previously. What do you think some of the impacts are going to be with AI? Because we see things, you know, generative AI or, you know, creating visual arts and assets with the click of a button. It's never been faster. Granted, the quality isn't always there, but it still accelerates the rate at which you can produce stuff. What do you think the impacts might be?
Big.
It's going to be fucking wild.
It's going to be wild. Yeah, it's going to be wild. I don't want to sugarcoat that. It's going to be like the next 5 years are going to be like, what?
Okay.
But again, these technical people that can check and balance like their avenues when they use these tools are going to be the ones that are going to be more successful. They are going to go into director roles. You know, this job that I just applied for is for a TD position.
And what is
technical director? So, and that's over a pipeline. You know, like going into something like that. That's where I'm moving. So people that are going into director positions that are content, like want to be content creators, or they have like the slew of content, like I have for the past 4 or 5 years of my career, we can start pushing that and releasing it and doing something with it because we have the knowledge to do it. So with AI, dude, we're going to lose a lot of jobs. And people
yes.
Shout out to my buddy John Finger in Venice. He is on the forefront of using like every AI, of anything that he can possibly. He just made a decision. This guy is like a longtime veteran, like been in the industry doing video editing and stuff. The guy worked for Viacom back in the day. He's a big content creator too. I can plug him later. And his content. So on Instagram or, you know, whatever. So he's always talking to me. He's wanting me to get back into doing robotics and stuff. He's like, go apply for Tesla, you know, whatever. He's like, go work on Tesla bots, do whatever. Like, he's like, please. And I'm just like, no, I'm going to do this thing. He tells me, he educates me every day where this is going. Yeah. He's like, you don't understand. He's doing tests every day. He's doing tests every day with all this new releases. Dude,
it's going to be.
You're going to be able to have your own game. You're going to be able to tell this AI in the next 5 years. Conservatively, this could happen sooner than that. You're going to be able to be like, I like Unreal Engine. Make me an Unreal Engine of my own.
Oh God. Okay.
Now put a character in it and make this level and literally like write a script to it and do whatever you want, and it's going to be able to do it. I'm not saying this is going to be like consumer ready
that
fast, because a lot of these companies, you know, these corporations are going to freaking just like be
eat up all the market share.
They're just gonna put a stop to it because they've got like a freaking 10-year business plan before this stuff started blowing up in their faces. And they're like, we're getting this to market,
Yeah.
we're gonna get this to market. Screw you, AI.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this. Like, we're not gonna implement it in our systems yet, But all this stuff's probably already happening. It's good to have like all these jobs that I'm having that are gonna be like more high profile in the future. Getting to know behind the scenes, like really where it's at.
Yeah.
John said that he's seeing a lot of studios trying to make the same mistakes that studios are already making, where you have a lot, you're people are hiring people in a studio setting for AI artists. He's like, that's not the goal of this. He's like, the goal is not to have another studio. The goal is for you and a couple of friends to do all this on your own.
Yes.
And then own it. Like, don't start hiring. You're basically doing the same thing that's already being done.
Yeah.
So and people are hitting him up, from studios that like want him to come do it for. He's like, no, that's not the point. I'm a director now. I'm going to do what I want,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a huge change. It's going to be huge. I'm excited though.
Me too. Well, there's so many different facets to it, and I'm very curious of your opinion. So, like you said, AI is going to be wildly disruptive. Yep. We're going to lose a lot of jobs. Granted, we're going to create a lot of jobs on the back end, but in the short term, we're going to lose a lot of jobs. Because like you said, there's a couple parts. One, AI, I view it as a force multiplier. If you're already a heavyweight champion in this arena, it's going to allow you to hit harder, move faster, just do everything so much better. But if you're just starting out, it's not going to make you a world star athlete overnight. That disparity between the top and the bottom is going to grow. The Pareto principle, the 80-20, it's really going to be noticeable.
Yeah.
That's on like the individual talent and skill set. From an industry's perspective, like I saw a tech demo maybe 6 months ago at a little bit of text and the push of a button, they generated a full map for like a first-person shooter battle arena.
Yep.
They said, hey, make this like an urban landscape. I want it roughly this big, this amount of buildings, throw some debris in there, a couple of buttons. You hit generate, and 30 minutes later, they had an entire battle arena that you can then drop characters into and just test things out. 30 minutes. Yeah. Fucking wild.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll be able to optimize it as you go too, Like you don't know, in order for it to build this urban environment, one of the things that keep us from being able to utilize that, like ASAP is probably because like we were talking about polygons and retopologizing for animation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of technology that are going out that's like starting to render like, oh, how many polygons is this? Like, it doesn't matter. We're using nanite, or we're using Gaussian splatting or whatever, an Unreal Engine. But part of our systems can only run so much right now, So the consumer grade stuff, you have limitations. You get what you can't. I got a Steam Deck and I can't run Cyberpunk on maximum settings on my Steam Deck, So it depends what the consumer grade technology is gonna look like, because you're still gonna have to have something to push that.
Oh, absolutely. You need the hardware to kind of do all the calculations and such.
But no, it's just, it's going to be super disruptive. But I think I had this feeling, I don't know what it was. I was like, we're going to go through like an art renaissance in like the next
I think so
10
too.
years. And I thought this like 10 years ago. I was like, something big is coming. Like art wise, I was like, we've been doing the same thing for a while. And I was like, so when I started thinking about this AI and listening to John and what's going on, I was like, this is going to be it. This is the thing, because art and creativity is going to be born out of the struggle that's going to happen whenever things change so dramatically.
Yeah.
And Hollywood's probably they're going to be using it.
Oh, they're already using it.
But immediately, like,
yeah.
I don't know if they're holding on, we had the writer's strike and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like, what are they sitting on? Like Jamie Kennedy, the comedian, was talking about going on the Warner Bros. Lot a few weeks ago or something. And he's like, it was a fucking ghost town.
Yikes.
Okay. Yeah. He's like, I've never seen it so dead over there.
Oh, yeah. So I wanted to touch upon something that you mentioned earlier. how, now small teams of people can develop these wildly large projects almost to a studio level with the advancements in AI. Like I mentioned, that battle arena for the first person shooter takes half an hour, you push a button. Now 4 people in the basement can be a studio. They can start cranking out assets and content and make games. Granted, not the same as like a 100-person team, but like they can punch well above their weight compared to before.
I would say Crank is a. I don't know if Crank is conservative on this one because it's still a lot. It still takes so much time.
It does,
right? But you're able to just like with photogrammetry, like these cameras, you could do photogrammetry. You could build 3D assets by taking photos and using the scan data from your cameras to be able to construct a room or this room or a 3D model.
Yep.
And we're starting to see where you're able to use that as an asset a lot faster than having to go in and touch everything up. Like people that are going doing these assets like Unreal, Epic and Unreal Engine, they have the Unreal Marketplace. And there's tons of people that have gone, they travel out, like photographers, somebody like you that has this awesome technology and is able to go and capture things in the right lighting, then turn around and then you can take those and reconstruct them into 3D models and build assets to sell on the marketplace.
Okay.
So all of these game developers, there's always been this, like in the past couple of years, there's been this leg up, like being able to get an asset faster, or really good quality where somebody used to have to hand paint a 3D model to make it look real. Mm-hmm. Now you can actually use photo data from the scans and use that as your texture.
Okay.
Yeah. There's softwares like I worked with a studio in Toronto that has a $300,000 light rig. It's a photo scanning rig.
Yeah.
It's a huge dome, and somebody sits down or you put an object in it, and it hits it from like all these different angles. Tons of cameras like these, and tons of them.
Yep.
And it captures it from every angle. You can then make that into a 3D model. It can spit you out all of the texture maps. Not like with the lighting, it'll take the lighting out of it. It'll automatically de-light it. Yep. So you've got your diffused textures. It'll give you like normal maps, your light maps, everything. And it'll spit you out all these maps. That saves you a ton of time.
So much.
Yeah. And we're getting more tools with AI now we don't have to like model this from scratch. Mm-hmm. We don't have to wonder exactly what color this is because we've got something telling us exactly what color this is.
Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, we still like in the engine, like we were saying, we have optimization passes that we have to do. Like when I was working at Cyan, holler Cyan, you guys are awesome. Cyan Worlds Inc. I worked on the Riven remake. I mean, the first launch was for VR.
Okay.
So everything's optimized for VR.
Right.
And then when it full release, like PC version, you can crank the graphics up. So we have LODs, level of detail, versions of assets, that you can, a lot of people there's ways to auto generate them now, that might work, but, so there's all these little steps that are helping us get there faster for sure. But the goal, in the future, I think it's like you and 2 best friends that have the same visions, to move around a lot, and you're lucky to meet really cool people. Then you can meet a good team of people. It's like forming a band, eventually, like in the next couple of years, like hey, you want to like come over after work and spend 4 hours working together on our thing. Mm-hmm. And that 4 hours could have been 20 hours or somebody's work week. 5-10 years ago.
Going to be so wild. I'm very excited and terrified to see what the next 5-10 years how it goes.
I don't know. I know people worry about this stuff. I don't. Sure. I don't know why. It's like I don't know. Maybe it's like I don't know. I don't know what to call that. It's just like I don't look forward to danger. I like adrenaline and stuff.
Of course.
Maybe it's I don't know. It's probably not a girl thing. It's probably not a guy thing. It's like.
It's just a personality type.
I'll handle it, I'll handle it.
I mean, the only constant in life is change, right?
Yeah.
So it's coming.
Well, I've heard my mom. My mom used to say stuff like, she's just like, "You're so brave for moving away, and I'm proud of you for being out there." Blah. And I'm just like, yeah, I wanted this. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
it's
feel
fun.
like it's not brave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not brave.
So let's say someone is a, sophomore, senior, or sophomore, junior, senior in high school, around that age, and they want to go into this industry. What kind of advice would you give them, given how turbulent the next, 5 to 10 years could possibly be?
I think if you like something and you're passionate about it, I don't think anything should stop you from doing what you want. It's always a risk. I knew getting in this industry is a risk. That's what I get to do is a privilege. It really is. Like, I was telling the guys in the interview this yesterday. I was like, first of all, you have to look at this like, yeah, you might be a hard worker, like, or you are a hard worker and you're driven and inspired and you've got these things, but this job is a privilege, dude.
Yeah.
Like you're in a situation where you like have a chance to do a job that doesn't feel like a job, like, and get paid
handsomely. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah. And then these top guys, they're making great salaries, they are, because studios are wisening up. So somebody that's in high school right now, because I dicked off in high school. I'd never been in a place where I was like, I started to make friends. I was more interested in my friends. What I would tell somebody is, and this is coming from a guy who wasted his high school time in art, flunked out of like the first year of school, like I had to figure some stuff out. But somebody that's got like a good vision, unlike I had in high school, a junior, hey, if you really like working on art, you've got access to free software now, like Blender. Hopefully you have a computer. Everybody has a freaking computer these days. You can run Blender well enough, learn CGI, learn YouTube. Huge. You've got so much more that I had, like now you can just go and somebody would have to pay tuition for and learn this stuff, start building a portfolio that shows that you're driven and committed. It doesn't have to be the best thing when you graduate high school. It doesn't have to look the best. Do the best you can. Work on material, illustrations, sculpting, painting. Work on these skills and your understanding of how computers work. Obviously, if you want to get into CGI and how to use software like Maya or Blender or 3ds Max or whatever, and get to know it and put effort. Show if you want to go and do this. I don't even think, now there's so much out there. You may not even need a degree. I don't have a degree. I have a diploma that says I am proficient in 3D animation and visual effects. This was 12 years ago, and artists get the chance to do something really wonderful with their lives and make salaries that you could only dream about. Even getting a bachelor's degree in school, like some people don't make that. You have an opportunity to really excel if you really love it. So just show, I think, for people that are in school, show effort that this is a passion and that you're also cool to hang out with.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I have any young people that will watch this. If you want to get into this industry, I will tell you a horror story. One of the most talented animators that I've seen of their work had an interview at DreamWorks, and he showed up in a mustard stained t-shirt.
Oh no.
And joggers.
Okay.
And they were like, next.
Yeah.
One of the most talented people ever, one of the most talented people ever. No, they wanted you in-house. Dress up, look nice, like be smell good. Hygiene's important. Your commitment's important. Like, I guess nowadays it doesn't. The hygiene thing is like, but seriously, okay, okay. But I went through my interview process. I wore button-up shirts, and I'm sitting at home, on my computer desk, like doing for remote work. So,
presentation is key. Communication is key.
This is a thing here in the United States. This ain't a thing like in Europe. Like you go to London, you think somebody's gonna be walking down the street in their PJs? Nope. No, it's like people because you don't know where the job's going to go to. And these higher profile jobs, as you start to get, like, you can be sent places.
It could.
You can't
Yeah.
make you're going to make an ass out of yourself in front of your coworkers. They're going to be like, don't send him.
Yeah.
You know?
You represent the company. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, anybody, to young people, just put effort into a portfolio. Do work. I showed, to get into the school that I wanted to go to, I showed illustrations, I showed paintings, I showed sculpting, intermediary like 3D artwork. Like I went to an art institutes before I went to Canada.
Okay.
Because my family were like, okay, well, if you're serious about this, then go to a school local, and if you're really serious about it after going through that, we will send you to the.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
It was expensive, and
Of course.
the thing about AI, this AI is closed down now. They sold people on
This art institute.
this art,
Got it.
this art institute. Yeah. Oh yeah. This art institute. They said they had staff they didn't have. Some they did, some they didn't, and it was just it's not like they're charging people $90,000
Oof.
for 3 years.
Yep.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And no one's going to be able to land a job here, for one.
Yeah.
Unless you just like have experience already and you're just coming in for
It's tough.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I went there for a year and then I was like, nope, got accepted into another school. But that year gave me enough time, since I dicked off on high school and my first year of college, to work on material to then get me into the other school.
Okay. Got it.
So it was good. Just having, people need to have a drive,
I think that passion it's really what sets you apart from everyone else. Because like you said, one, like, be pleasant to be around. That goes a very long way. And next to that, it's the passion to learn. It's the passion to want to push the envelope, develop your craft, hone your skills on your own time, because you want to, not because someone is pushing you in that direction. You're pushing yourself, and that there's a mountain of difference in between those two.
Yeah, I mean, the people like these guys in the interview. Can't say, I probably shouldn't say who you are, so I'm not going to do that. Awesome guys, and that whole idea of having an ownership in it, that takes it from like, yes, I understand it's a job, but it's the passion aspect that people are chasing because they love being an artist.
Yes.
They you love being able to do that. Once you end up, I will say this, working at the smaller studios is beyond the best thing. Because the bigger studios you work at, there's so much going on that you kind of do become a cog.
Yeah.
Even if the work you're doing significant, but you do get drowned out, and you're always having something you need to do this. Like, here's your task. But somebody's already written, here's how to do the task.
Yes.
That sucks.
Yeah, it super sucks.
You're like, oh, I'm crafty, but I just follow instructions. Mm-hmm. It fucking sucks. I'm so grateful for working where I've gotten to work so far, but if I have an opportunity to work with 35 people on a title above 400, I'm taking 35 people
every single day.
Every time. I don't care how big of a blockbuster it is. Nope.
Yeah. I mean, because like you said, you have a lot more agency. You're a lot closer to the people around you. You have a lot more freedom in the work in which you do and the solutions in which you present to do it.
I like to know who's hiring me too. Like all right, the fellas that interviewed me yesterday, I stalked their LinkedIn,
as you do, and
I started looking up all their work history.
Yeah.
And because I'm like, okay, but what drove you to want to do this? Like, why are you here? Because if I'm working with you, and I need this job. Like, I need it.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's very important questions to ask. There's important questions to ask yourself. You need to make sure that what you're doing is that you're really gung ho about it, because it's a lot of money. You get, it becomes important. You're looking out for everybody else. You want to make sure you guys are on the same page. You end up working with people around you that can't answer questions like, what are you passionate about? What about this project that we're potentially going to be working on together? speaks to you. Like, why
Yeah.
are you so passionate about driving this and doing it? And they answer that,
Good.
and they're excited and smiling.
Good.
You're like, I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, employment is a two-way street. At least it should be.
Yeah.
You're donating. I say donating. You are giving 40 plus hours of your week. It's usually plus.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time of your life to be dedicating to something that you better enjoy it. I recognize that this is a luxury that most people don't get to have, but in an ideal situation, it's a two-way street. There's a good cultural fit. You like them, they like you. You're passionate about the project. Everyone has a common goal. Yeah.
Yeah. It's well worth it to be sure what you're doing.
Yeah. So a closing tradition on this show is the previous guest leaves a question for the current guest, not knowing who the current guest may be.
This is cool.
Yeah.
I like this.
So the question that's left for you is, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self that your current self knows, what would it be?
Don't worry so much about your friends.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say not to worry so much about your friends growing up. All of the people that I thought, like my best friends, none of us keep in touch with each other. Like a few, but you're not missing out on anything fun. All of my best stories are from my older years. I had dumb stories to tell about high school.
Yeah.
Not interested. You're not missing out on anything, dude. Stay home, play games, do art. That's what you should have done.
I think that's great advice. So I listen to a man named Alex Hormozy on YouTube a lot. He's an entrepreneur and he runs a variety of businesses, private equity, blah, blah, blah. But he describes, being successful gets very lonely. There are phases in your life that you go through because let's say you start out with this group of friends and you have these ambitions. At some point, you're going to outgrow them unless they want to grow too. So you transition out of that group of friends, and now you're in no man's land before you land on the next group of friends. So that transition, as you gain skills, as you get better, as you grow your professional, personal career, whatever, it's lonely in that transition. But if you keep this path, even that next group of friends, you're going to begin to outpace them too, unless they decide to grow with you. So you have to get comfortable with the loneliness. You have to be comfortable with yourself and the confidence in yourself and your career and your path to just keep pursuing this to whatever heights of your career that you want to get.
Yep.
And the other advice that they said is all the people they want to hang out with, they're doing shit.
Yeah.
So they don't always have time to hang out, and that's okay because they're doing shit. So it's just the caliber of people that you get to hang around with. As you reach that upper echelon, they just don't have much time for those casual hangouts, and that's okay.
Your hangouts are not bullshit.
Yes.
You're doing stuff. You're really doing stuff.
Yeah.
You're hanging out and either making something or I've let my good time go on way too long in life. And, luckily I've been able to juggle a career with it and whatnot. But really, no, I mean, it's great what you said. When you get to spend your time doing things that aren't hanging out at a bar and drinking, enjoy yourself. You do need to make friends though. I think people need people. This path of loneliness is the FOMO, you don't want to miss out on anything. But just like anything else, that's a routine to break. Oh, I'm not really missing out on anything. Yep. I'm doing something that's meaningful. Mm-hmm. I'm not missing anything. I'm bringing meaning. So
yeah,
I think that's good.
Yeah. Well, Cody, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate you being here. Before we actually break, where would you like to draw people's attention to, and where can people find you?
So I'm getting started to and go into content creation of posting,
Nice.
Do social media. I've never been one for that. It's a lot of the work that I've worked on, I still can't show. So it's hard to really plug anything. My name's Cody Ashworth. See you when I see you. But John Finger, he is on Instagram. It's Mr. John Finger. He is, if you're curious about the AI and its capabilities, what he's doing, it'll give you a really good idea of like where things are going from a creative space. Shout out to everybody I worked at Animax with, at Leica with, Cyan, Morgan, Quantum Capture, those guys, I've really appreciated every job that I've ever had. C4 Solutions, shout out to late great Quincy Jones. That dude was awesome. Barrett, I hope you're doing good. My brother, I miss you. Mom, I miss you. Family, and yeah, man, this has been great. Thank you very much, Jason. And I think the leaving question that I have for the next guest is, how do you define passion?
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. I will definitely ask that. Cool. But Cody, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I've learned, a wealth of information from the industry, animation, your insights to what the future might look like, how to get into it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jason.
Cheers.
Cheers.